Hi, I'm Preston Williams, and welcome to another edition of Jazz Talk. Today on our show, we have a very special guest, and I'm so happy that he's on today. He's been on the scene for over 40 years. He is a saxophonist, composer, arranger, and educator, and he's worked with so many greats from Art Blakey, Max Roach, Wynton and Branford Marsalis, Betty Carter, to name a few. His name is Bobby Watson, and he's here today. Bobby, welcome to Jazz Talk.
Thank you, Preston.
Man, I can't tell you how happy I am to have you on the show. As I said, you've been on the scene for quite a while. You've put out so much wonderful music. And I understand that you're from Lawrence, Kansas, but you actually
Yeah,
grew up in Kansas City.
yes.
Yeah, tell us about your humble beginnings, man, growing up. What was it like during that time and how you got involved in music?
Well, Preston, there was always music in my house. It wasn't jazz, except when my father would come home at night and he would play a saxophone. And he'd go to a corner of the house and he'd play a saxophone, and that's where he felt the sound was good. But when I was my earliest memories of him, besides driving a dump truck uh, to help build the Kansas Turnpike. He
Mm-hmm.
was repairing instruments,
Mm.
tuning pianos, and learning how to fly airplanes. And
Okay.
so, you know, we had music. I always loved music from an early age, and so they brought me a little drum that hangs around uh, your neck,
Okay.
and there's pictures of the picture they took of us, and I'm like doing the drums, and my brother though got instruments. So we've always had music. My mother used to play for the church because we went to a small church that was my grandfather uh, had. So it was on my mother's side.
Mm-hmm.
So um, as we grew older, um, I started taking piano lessons, and then started on clarinet the next year, like when I was in fourth grade, fifth grade. Flutophone, that's what they used to do to see if you had any musical talent.
Right.
And then went to the clarinet and thrived in band, concert band, and but always had a knack for using my ear. Um, on my while while learning piano, I was always trying to get stuff off the records. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I would play things like My Girl and
Yeah.
Green Onions. You know, that was one of the first ones that I was taught by our babysitters. And we had babysitters that would come in, and one of them played piano on East Coast.
Right.
That was the
Oh,
first
that's
tune
great.
I ever
That was
played.
great, man. That was awesome.
So I was always looking, using my ear and my imagination and taking things off the radio.
Mhm.
And besides learning to read, in fact, I'd use my ear so much and I love music so much. I thought that I wasn't going to be able to read, but I was determined to be in the band. So I
Mhm.
figured I would take my parts home at night and I would memorize them and then come back for the next band rehearsal and
Right.
I would pretend like I was reading. But reading music uh, turned out to be no problem.
Mm.
But I was always determined to be in music. You know,
Yeah. Yeah. So when did you switch over to the saxophone?
I switched into the saxophone around 1969. Uh,
Okay.
I go by grades back then.
Yeah.
When I was in like eighth grade, ninth grade, I
Mhm.
added. I really didn't switch. Everything is an addition to. So I
Gotcha.
added the saxophone, and plus I grew up listening to my dad play in church. He
Yeah.
was in my grandfather's church all the time.
Okay.
A and B selection.
Yeah.
And in fact, they had this expo at the beginning of every year for fourth graders, and then all the instrument makers would be there in the cafeteria with their instruments set out from the different instrument companies, music companies around the area. And you had a situation where the parents could rent the instrument with the option to buy. That way, if your child really wasn't into it, then you could give it back.
Right.
So I went straight for the saxophone, of course, because of my father. And this guy, Carl Weber, who was eventually going to be my band director, him and my dad got to talking, and they teamed up on me and told me I should learn clarinet first, which didn't bother me because there was a big hit on the radio called Strangers on the Shore by Ackert Bilt that I would hear on AM radio.
Right.
So I got the clarinet, and I was fine with it. I learned Strangers on the Shore, clarinet with the big vibrato. So, but I always had in the back of my mind to play saxophone. The deal was if I succeeded on the clarinet, at some point I could pick up the sax. And when my opportunity came, which is around 8th or 9th grade, I added a saxophone. I grabbed a tenor at first and played tenor for a while until I got to, I'd say around 1970. That would be 69, that high school. And so they brought in some new instruments, and I snatched an alto because it was brand new, and I liked it, and it was closer to my sound.
Fantastic. Now, Bobby, you went on from there to the University of Miami, and I was surprised to know, man, that you went to school and you were there with Jaco Pastorius and Pat Metheny. That's fantastic. Wow, tell us about that, man.
Oh, I met all kind of great people. Bruce Hornsby was there.
Wow.
I met Lundys, Curtis and Carmen, and we had a band together. Phyllis Hyman was there. Ira Sullivan, Joe DiOrio. It was pretty fertile time to be down there. Gil Goldstein. Just so many. It'll come to me, but my main thing was I met Curtis and Carmen.
Yeah.
And we formed a relationship that continues to this day.
Yeah, you guys go way back. I was actually, I love that cut. I was watching some footage on YouTube a while back and watching you guys tear it up singing Where'd It Go? Carmen is just jamming. You got that sax solo and Robert Glasper's on the piano. I says, and Victor on the drums. I said, my man, they are cooking, you know. But that was Madrid. That was Madrid, Spain, by the way. Yeah, that show.
Actually, it was the Madrid Theater in L.A.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, L.A. Wow. Okay.
Yeah, Madrid Theater in Los Angeles.
Man, you know, and that's just incredible. You know, Carmen is such a fantastic musician, one of the best all around. I mean, she's a visual artist. She plays piano. She writes all of her own stuff. I mean, I don't even know what to say about her. And her brother Curtis is a fantastic bassist. But did you ever get a chance to spend time with Jaco and Pat Metheny and do stuff with those guys back then?
I'm very close to Pat. He's from Lee Summit, Missouri.
That's right.
Which is one of the connecting suburbs or whatever, townships of Kansas City. Yeah. So I met Pat before he went away to school, which he went to the University of Miami.
Right.
And he went there first. And he came back and told me about it. And I spent a couple of nights out of his house. And he was telling me about his big brother Mike, who was in the Army. Mike Metheny, trumpet player, great trumpet player. And he turned me on to a lot of records, Miles, stuff, because he had his big brother Mike's record collection.
Yeah.
And he taught me a couple tunes, you know, Green Dolphin Street, Stella, Starlight, All the Things You Are. Some of the basic foundational repertoire, you know. Yeah. I used to go out and watch them play out on the I-70, him and some other great Kansas City musicians here in town.
Fantastic. Yeah, he was talking his brother Mike brought home a Miles Davis 4 and More record, just turned him out, and a Thelonious Monk record. He says, man, he said, my life has never been the same since. But I know you guys were just together about 5-6 months ago at the Kennedy Center. I was there. I was talking to you that night, and I was chatting with Pat too.
That's right.
But yeah, what was your perception of Jocko at the time? Could you even conceive that this guy would go on to be one of the greatest bass players of all time? How he just revolutionized the instrument?
None of us knew, when I got to Miami, he was a South Florida legend.
Yeah.
He was playing with Wayne Cochran
Yep.
and the Detroit Grills, and he was down at the Fontainebleau. And he said, there's this bass player, man. He played Donna Lee on the bass.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And when I got down there, we went to go find him, and we knew he was fantastic. And it was Jocko, he hung out, and Curtis hung out with him, and then he went to New York and made his first record. I think it's called Jocko.
That's right. That's right.
And he had all these cats on it, Hubert Laws and Herbie, and all these cats, man. And we just went, oh my, maybe, it's sort of like, I don't want to use the virus these days, but it's like he started it. Jocko went to New York, and we said, well, man, we've been playing with Jocko, making great music, not me in particular, but all of the community, our community of musicians and our peers. And then Pat Metheny went, because he was down there. I went to the University of Miami because of Pat, and also because of Dr. Clifton Williams, because I was very keen on composing and still am. But I went there it was a dual reason, because I was going to go to North Texas State. And Pat said, man, no, Bobby, you got to go. Robert, they call me Robert. No, Rob, you got to go down to Miami. That's where it's at. At that time, Jerry Coker was at the department, and Jerry Coker has written some seminal books on jazz improvisation. So we wanted to go there. He was telling me how hip it was. The Miami Beach scene, you could do gigs, you get a tuxedo, it was a scene. And because the season starts when it gets cold up north, and the season starts, So Jocko sort of woke us all up to maybe, hey, if he can do it, maybe we can do it too.
Yeah.
Long story short.
Yeah.
Everybody started migrating north. Phyllis Hyman went north with her band. David Sanborn snatched her band up. Pat Metheny went to Boston. He's playing with Gary Burton. And we're just like I said, Bruce Hornby was there too, playing piano. And then there was the Dixie Dregs. They were like Miami Rock Ensemble, #1. That's what they were called at school, but they became the Dregs. And Rod Morgenstein, fantastic virtuoso on drums and guitar. It was a lot of talent there. It was one of those watershed moments, I guess.
Yeah, incredible. Now, mid-'70s, Bobby, you, I believe mid-'70s, you moved to New York. And man, how in the world did you hook up with Art Blakey and end up becoming the musical director of that band? That's incredible. I mean, that must have blown your mind. I'm like, wow, because, when I think about musical directors, I think about guys like, Wayne Shorter, who was in that band too. But tell us about that, man. How did you get the gig, and how did you get to be the musical director?
Well, I'll try to give you the short version. I've told it so many times, I think I got it streamlined by now. So I went to New York, I had some friends that had a place to stay, started crashing, got me a Village Voice, and went to the music section and just started going. I got to New York on my birthday, I got there on August 24th.
Okay.
1976, which is a Sunday. And I went out. I really got there Saturday night. I went out Sunday. And our first place I landed was Folk City. Met Albert Daly, met Rufus Reed, met Billy Hart, Jabali. Because Albert used to have a session at Folk City every Sunday afternoon. Got a chance to sit in. And the reaction I would get from the cats was, "Who you with?" You know, nobody would say like, "Oh man, you're killing, man. I hear you. Yeah, man. Yeah, man. It's, you know, you sound good." No, cats back then would say, "Well, who are you with?" Because a lot of musicians were coming through town with other bands, and when band would be in New York, they'd all branch out into the city and the boroughs and sit in.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know, so cats were used to hearing guys that sound good. So you know, it's New York. So when people would ask me who I'm with, that was my clue.
yeah,
I'm in the ballpark. You know, they think I'm with somebody.
right.
And so this went on for several months. And I met a gentleman named Joe Kingston, who is one of them historical figures that probably, you know, will not be written about like he should. And he was friends with all the musicians. You know, Curtis Fuller.
Hmm.
He knew art. Uh, Joe hooked me up with Curtis Fuller. And then I started hanging out with Curtis. Curtis was with Count Basie at the time. And when the guys in the Basie band were off, they played folk Storyville. And George, we had a club called Storyville on 50th in the 50s, 56th Street or something. And I met all kinds of great people up there. I met Babs Gonzalez. I used to sit in with Jimmy Forrest on tenor,
Hmm.
Chris Woods on alto, Butch Miles, great bass players. Um, just you know, some days I remember all their names, some days I
Yeah,
don't. But it was wonderful. They all took me under my wing, and Curtis, of course, you know, was on there. Ron Tooley, different people would be up there playing. And one night when I was up, it was Art's birthday.
uh-huh.
Joe Kingston brought Art down to hear me because Curtis Fuller kept saying, "The Boo got to meet you. You got to meet the Boo. You know, you should be with the Boo. You got to be with the Boo. Buhana, you should be with the Boo. You know, Buhana, Abdul Ibn Buhana, aka Art Blakey."
Right.
So they brought him down to the club, and Joe bought him a bottle of champagne. He just got in town from Canada,
Hmm.
and next thing I know, he's up on stage. Uh, he's nudged Butch Miles off the drums. They made the exchange, and he's back there playing. And he's like, blow, blow, I look around, and you know, all of a sudden the whole feeling of the beat changed.
Yeah.
You know, I like to use the description as like going down the road doing 70, and a semi comes back behind you doing 80 and nudges you on the road. Boom, you know, you just get this little nudge, and then there he is. And he took me in the back to the men's room and asked me the famous question, "Who you with?" And I said, "Nobody." And he said, "Well, how would you like to be a jazz messenger?" Okay, you know, you know. And so, you know, he gave me some records and told me to learn it. And he was expanding to a sextet because he had a quintet then with uh, Bill Hartman, David Schnitter, Cameron Brown, and Mickey Tucker. That was the band. And I went up and heard the band several times. I heard them down at the Village Gate. I heard them at the Bottom Line, and I heard them at McHale's. So I started following the band, and then I got a chance to sit in. And when I got up on stage, I had already added extra parts to the quintet book, so
Hmm.
they didn't have to rehearse. You know, because this is a working band, so I knew what they were playing, so I added my third part to all that music, and I took the classics like Moanin' and Blues March, Along Came Betty, Whisper Not, Night in Tunisia. They were still playing those as well as some Walter Davis tunes, and I added a third part to all of that so that David and Bill wouldn't have to change any notes, and Mickey Tucker. So
Right.
I plugged myself in basically, Preston.
Wow.
When I got on stage, it was instantly a sextet.
Really?
Yeah. So they didn't have to make no arrangements. I did all that. And I plugged myself in an era. And it
Wow.
was an instant, suddenly, they all had chord. David was playing the same parts they'd been playing for years. And I just plugged in on top of them. Suddenly, we had three parts. So nobody had to do anything.
Wow. That's incredible.
So, you know,
Yeah, yeah. So, what type of a person was Art? I mean, as far as, I mean, he's definitely known for being a legendary band leader, but what was your perception of him? I mean, were you in awe, like, man, I'm playing with Art Blakey? I mean, what was going on with?
yeah, I mean, it was all respect and love because he was really cool. He loved young people. I
Yeah,
mean, he took me and Pam when we first met. He took me and Pam to the Empire Diner, and we had a late dinner or early breakfast. It was late, and he gave me he loaned me one of his coats because I just came up from Florida and it was getting cold there. Like I said, I got there in October, I mean,
right.
in August, and right now by this time it's October, and I've been going around New York and I hooked up around October, and then it was going into November, and they were going to Japan, and I didn't really have my winter gear together because I had been in Miami for
Yeah.
the last 4 years or so, and I hadn't had a winter in 4 years by design. I didn't go home for Christmas.
Okay.
I had never had a Christmas that wasn't cold, so I was just loving that weather down there.
Yeah.
And he gave me a coat. He would give me a hat. He gave me things. He was just he gave me the shirt off his back. At least with me. I think if you were real with him, he was real with you.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if you brought him bullshit, then he would give you bullshit.
Wow.
He would let you rise. That you earned your level of respect with him. If you disrespected yourself, then he was going to disrespect you. You know, he was totally real, and he was one of the greatest and most prolific liars I've ever met in my life.
Really?
But we knew it. We would just be in awe, and he was just, and they were like harmless, okay? But they were really funny and part of his legend. But he loved young people, and he never fired nobody. He was one of the most positive people I've ever met in my life, and he he, uh, he believed in the angels. He said, "Don't worry, the angels are with us." He was truly blessed, and he had angels around him.
Mm.
He was quite something, a force of nature, and
'Cause he was a very small man in stature. He was a very short, stocky man, but
yeah,
very powerful. His presence.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Well, tell me a little bit about the Marcellus brothers. I know you were playing with Wynton, and I guess they were part of that
They were
group.
playing. They were playing with me and the
Ah,
messenger.
gotcha,
Okay,
gotcha.
I didn't hire me for any gigs. I hired him out of the messengers. I took him to Philly, took him different places with my band after I left Art, and I took him to Philly. Philly didn't know who he was, and I was on the mic. I said, "Ladies and gentlemen, you guys only paid $15 tonight to get in and hear this, me and this young man." I said, "But mark my words tonight. Mark this day on your calendar. I said that in 5 years, you're going to pay 3 times as much to come see this young man. And you trust me on this." I knew he was great at the beginning.
Yeah.
I knew he was special. He was only 18, came up to McHale's and sat in with the band, you know. Um, it was so funny because Valerie Panamaroff invited him to come up, because he was sitting there like, with Bambi eyes listening to Valerie espouse about the greatness of the trumpet and, his virtues. And so Valerie said, "I like this young man. Go get it. Go get it. Go get your horn."
Yeah.
And Arto let him sit in. And so Valerie came with his arm around him and said, "Ah, this is great. This is a good young man. I have a feeling. I haven't heard him play, but I think you should let him sit in." And so Art said, "Go get your horn." in the middle of winter. We went and had on a windbreaker and tennis shoes, and went and got his horn and came back and sat in up at McHale. And the rest is history.
Wow.
And, you know, he learned how to shave. He learned how to dress with us. And we love him dearly.
Yeah.
We're dear friends to this day.
Yeah, I always love that tune that you guys did, Wheel Within a Wheel. That's one of my favorites, man. You
Thank
know, and
you.
I heard you play that in February when you guys were at the Mid-Atlantic Jazz Festival. I was there
Yeah.
for great. Now tell me, man, what was it like working with Betty Carter?
Before I talk about Betty, I wanted to finish up. Nobody loves music. I haven't seen anybody who loves music as much as Winter
Really?
and Branford. He is totally and been blessed to be in a position where all he has to do is think about music and raising money for Nick
Wow.
Center. But, you know,
Yeah.
he's
Yeah.
got people around him now, a support system that allows him to be exploit his creativity, and it's beautiful,
Yeah.
you know. And he was also one of the greatest technicians, instrumentalists I've ever met.
Oh yeah.
One of the greatest instrumentalists. I learned a lot from him, and he made me a better musician.
Right. Right.
You
Yeah.
know, being around both of them, Branford and Winter,
Mm-hmm.
it made me a better musician.
Yeah. Yeah.
Betty Carter, I knew her through Curtis. And, you know, again, my wife Pam was always at my side. And so Betty knew Pam as well. And so and Pam is a big fan to this day of Betty Carter. We used to follow, we used to see Betty in the band whenever we could. John Hicks and Kenny Washington,
Yeah.
that band, which I think is one of her greatest bands,
Yeah.
and Curtis. And sometimes we'd be on the road and run into the trio. When I was with Art Blakey, we'd have a double bill sometimes with Betty and the Messengers.
Mm.
And they were like extended family, you know, Betty. You know, these folks were like, in Art, you know, I got over the awe pretty quickly. I never got over the awe of his beat when you're up there playing and he's got that sound behind you and you know that sound from all those records you listen to and suddenly you're standing in front of this sound.
Right.
And that gives you goosebumps because you're going, oh, don't mess it up. Don't mess it up. You know, you're walking on ice, you know,
Right.
glass,
Right. Right.
fine china. You're walking on the sound of jazz, you know.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so you don't want to mess it up. And then Betty, these guys all became family. They were like uncles and aunts and big brothers. And so Betty, you know, she knew Pam and Pam loved Betty. And so Pam wrote a tune for her called Miss BC. And Betty loved it, you know. And in fact, Betty recorded a couple of Pam's The Love We Had Yesterday on her record. On that record where she's got 3 pictures of her in red, you know.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
she recorded one of Pam's compositions, you know, and she wrote tunes. She wrote some lyrics to one of my songs, In Case You Missed It. I mean, we were just like thick as thieves, you know. We were like, it's Betty, Aunt Betty, you know. And so she commissioned me to do a big band piece of Miss BC for the Lincoln Center. This is pre-jazz at Lincoln Center. And this guy had stuff at Avery Fisher Hall. I think that it was called Let the Music Play. That record that just came out, that CD, it was just released by Blue Engine, I think, last year. You know, that was that concert that night. And part of that concert was my arrangement of Miss BC.
Oh wow. Okay.
So we were just back then, Preston. I mean, it's family, man. It's still that way with a lot of cats for us.
Yeah.
You know, with Uncle Bobby and Aunt Pam. You know.
Yeah.
That was Aunt Betty and Uncle, you know, and Boo. There's the Boo, you know. You know, there's the cats, man. They took it. Clifford Jordan.
Yeah.
All the cats, man. They took us in. You know, Harold Mabern.
Oh, great pianist, man. Yeah, we just lost him. Was it this year or last year? Harold Mabern.
Yeah, he passed last year. I mean, these guys did gigs with me. You know, Clifford Jordan and Slide Hampton and Idris Muhammad, Harold Mabern, Art Blakey did gigs with me. You know?
There we go. You're back. Yeah, I couldn't hear you there for a second. Your sound went out.
Oh, where did I was saying these guys were we were a family, a unit. Clifford Jordan and Billy Higgins, Idris Muhammad,
Yeah, man.
Jabali, Billy Hart. They all did gigs with me. I called them for gigs. You know, Slide Hampton. They would all do. Woody Shaw did a gig with me.
The great Woody Shaw. What a
Art Blakey did a gig with me.
wow.
You know, it was just like, you know, I could call them for gigs, man. All these cats, man.
That's incredible.
Harold Mabern, Kenny Barron, Hugh Lawson. That's the name you don't hear a lot. Hugh Lawson, pianist from Detroit, you know. A lot of these cats would do gigs with us, you know. Get in the car and go to Philly with us.
Man.
Us young ones, me and Curtis, they would do gigs with us.
That's incredible, man. Wow. Hey, what was it like playing with Max Roach?
Max, our experience with Max was with some Sam Shepard plays in the theater off Broadway.
Mm-hmm.
And Max had composed the music. And me and Curtis again, we're like Dick and Thieves, we're like Ike and Mike, you know. Me and Curtis, you know,
Yeah.
Batman and Robin, however you want to put it.
Yeah.
And we were there on that project, and Max was doing the music. And we did 5 plays in repertoire, short plays of Sam Shepard, and Max composed the music for that, and we were his band.
Gotcha.
You know, I'm glad to clear some of this up, Preston. I never worked with Max in his band.
Oh, okay.
But he used to call me every morning when we were working on this piece, which was like, the whole experience lasted maybe 7 months.
Wow.
You know, and as he was working on the music, he would use my expertise and gifts to help him with the music. So I would get these calls at 5:30 in the morning. And you know, when you're young, I'm hanging out late too, you know.
Right.
And when I'm young, you know, you sleep in. You used to sleep in, don't get up. Keep them Count Dracula hours, you know. Wake up around 2 in the afternoon and start your day. You know, your life is when the sun goes down. And when the sun starts coming up, you go back into the casket, you know.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
Max, he would call at 5:30, at 6 o'clock in the morning. I'd pick up that phone. Hey, Bobby, it's Max. I'm like, oh. I didn't wake you, did I? No, of course not. So I've been up already. I walked a couple miles, and I need you up at the house. Okay, get up here as soon as you can. Click. You know, all the guys used to say click. Bob Art would say something. Rehearsal tomorrow at 3 o'clock. Click. You know, it would say bye. See you. You know.
Right.
So Max would just click, and I go have to get up. And then, oh, Pam, I gotta go up to Max's apartment. You know. And we'd work on music, you know, and he would bring ideas, and I try to notate things, and you know, cause I'm a great scribe. That's one of my gifts. I'm a scribe. Bill Cosby used me as a scribe and organizer of some of his thoughts. He gave me a little voice memo of him singing certain ideas and tunes for his records. One of his records, I think it was called My Appreciation. And I had to insist on co-writer's credit because he was singing into a voice recorder and there was no harmony, nothing. So I figured it out, made it into compositions, put the harmonies there, and went into the studio. Art used to sing things to me and here's the ideas of arrangements, and I could write them down and make something out of it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one of my gifts. I'm a scribe, and when people ask me about my ideas about composing, I say I'm just a scribe because I hear things and I try to write them down before I forget them. And
Yeah.
then after I get them down, then I use my skill and the craft I've learned about composition to turn them into pieces that are realized.
Yeah.
So my thing was with Max was I was a scribe, and we put the show together.
Yeah. Beautiful. Beautiful. Now, Bobby, some of my favorite stuff by you, and you and I talked about this in the early '90s, late '80s. You put these two CDs out on Blue Note. My favorites, man. My favorites. Post Motown, Bop, and the Inventor. You know how I feel about these, man. And
Yeah.
this one blew my mind. And I was talking to Victor about this. I said that song you wrote, PD on Great Jones Street.
Yeah.
He was telling me what it was about. But I love this one too. I like the version of Seventh Avenue you guys did. Man,
Oh,
that was kicking. I'm like, these boys are jamming. Oh, that's my tune, man. But
thank
tell me about Horizon. You, Curtis, and Victor put that together. What is that? What was that all about? You know, how'd you guys come up with the name, and what is that all about?
The name was given to us by uh, a set of identical twins, Doug and Daryl Jeffries, who they live in East Orange, New Jersey, and they were booking us, getting us gigs as the quartet, Bobby Watson quartet, and sometimes quintet, because Curtis was he's a great talent scout as well, and we would do quintet with Philip Harper. We flew Philip Harper up from Atlanta,
Uh-huh.
and Curtis would do that with his own money, and I would help, and we put these guys up uh, and put them in our band. And sometimes we would have a quartet with Steve Nelson, so it would be a
Mm-hmm.
quintet, different configurations, Mulgrew, Marvin Smitty Smith,
Yeah.
Kenny Washington did a lot. This was going on before Victor got into it.
Gotcha.
So we had this thing with Mulgrew now, and Daryl Jeffrey said, "You guys should have a name." I'm thinking Horizon, and I didn't like it. I've been watching the Horizon. I'm like, I was just being, stubborn. Anything Daryl said, I would have to, how we are. So one day we were doing a double bill with Woody Shaw, and Victor was in the band. And I had met Victor and knew him before, and we had our version of Horizon going in. I think it was probably with maybe Philip, maybe it's just a quartet with Kenny and Curtis and uh, Steve Nelson,
Uh-huh.
myself, and we did a double bill with them over in Newark. And Victor said, "Hey man, if Kenny can't make it, I would love to play with you guys."
Yeah.
And so then it started morphing. Then I was playing at Mulgrew, and you know, Mulgrew was get in demand. So it kind of just morphed. The guys would get, as their name grew, I couldn't get Mulgrew, so I got to get somebody else.
Right.
And I ran into Edward Simon through Charles Fambrew. And I just loved Edward's spirit, the way he played. So I started doing gigs with Edward. So Edward was available for a lot of gigs. And then Curtis had to go out with Betty and this, and then here came Carol Dunsheel, like this, and then Victor's there, and then uh, Curtis turned me on to Melton Mustafa in the
Oh
meantime.
yeah. Yeah.
He's from Miami. God bless him. May he rest in peace. But you know, it was just sort of my whole trajectory has been I just want to play with cats that inspire me and who I think are better than me.
Right.
And it can lift me up. I don't want to be the best one, because it gets boring. And I experienced that a lot, doing a lot of singles
Mm-hmm.
around Europe. I would do weeks where I would just go from town to town in Italy, and every night with a different rhythm section. every so often I would have a rhythm section where I would be able to keep for 3 days, and that was beautiful, you know. And that's how those records came about. Those first records were Red Records, Round Trip, Perpetual Groove, which is a live recording, uh,
Mm-hmm.
Round Trip, Appointment in Milan. Those three were came from the three cats: Piero Bassini, Attilio Zanchi, and Gian Piero Prina.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the ones that, you know, became my base in Italy.
Yeah.
But and so basically, you know, playing, picking up a band every night, getting to the hotel, going to an early sound check, rehearsing 4 or 5 tunes that you can do, and then mixing them up with standards to put
Mm-hmm.
a presentation together. Because when you're doing with local musicians, the only thing new for the local audience is me.
Right.
So if my rhythm section is playing behind me, they've probably been listening to them for years. So they've heard them already.
Right.
So
Right.
the pressure is on me to uplift them, make them play at a level they didn't think they could play at, and I have to bring it with my energy and my level,
Yeah.
so that the audience goes away saying, "Man, that's the best I ever heard them guys play."
Right.
You know, and what a pleasure it was to hear you, Bobby. See, so that gets old, man.
Yeah.
It takes a lot out of you. So I'm looking for players, and Horizon was just a manifestation of the environment I like to be in.
Okay.
I want to be with the best musicians that can inspire me and play and make me rise, make me feel comfortable, so I don't have to pull anybody. They're pushing me, and we pull each other, and that's what music is about. That's all I've ever wanted, you know. It's just I just want to be with cats where there's love, and we play together,
Yeah, man.
oh, and we make music and we love it and we push each other and we inspire each other. That's
Yeah.
really a horizon, man. You know.
Beautiful stuff, man. I love everything you guys did. Now, you've done some work in films also, Bobby. You wrote a song for A Bronx Tale, the movie. I was surprised, man. I didn't know that.
It's a short one. There's a
Okay.
scene- there's a scene where Robert De Niro pulls up in his bus and he's got a radio,
Yeah.
and his son, who's getting a little scallywaggish, you know, sitting with his boys, you know, the bad ones,
Right, right.
and they're sitting in front of their little social club, and Bob says, come here," to his son, and so his son goes, "Okay, just a minute, I'll be right back," because his dad can feel him slipping away because he's getting under the influence of Chaz Palmieri.
Right.
So so his son comes to him, gets on the bus, and there's a little radio playing, you know, and then Bob is trying to, uh, hey son, I got some tickets to the fight, you know, but before he said that, he goes, "Oh, Dad, can you turn that down? You know, please turn it down. It's you know, it's jazz, right? And it's me, you know." And he goes, "Oh, you kids, y'all don't know what's good, you
Right,
know."
right.
And that's my little part
Oh, man. It
in
was
there. And on the record, on the soundtrack, it's called Bus Talk.
okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
And
Nice.
it's linked, on the movie, it's linked to the lead motive of the music, which is I Only Have Eyes for You. Because the underlying thing is the young man coming of age and his relationship with a black
I was going to ask you, Bobby, who are some of your influences on the instrument? Because, like I said, I love your sound, man. You have such a distinct sound. No one really sounds like you, and I can tell when I hear. I say, "Oh man, that's Bobby Watson." But who are some of your influences on the instrument?
The obvious ones, Cannonball, Bird,
Yeah,
Jackie Mack,
yeah, those three.
Sonny, Train, you know, the ones. And then there are people like Junior Cook, Clifford Jordan,
Yeah,
um, Teddy, Teddy, oh, you know, out in the West Coast, Bootsy Barnes,
Bootsy Barnes.
Philly, um, George Coleman,
Yeah, George
big
Cole.
influence. Phil Woods was a big real-time influence on me. Gary Bartz,
Yeah. Yeah.
Real time influence. Sonny Fortune, real time influence. Um,
What about Wayne Shorter?
Wayne, of course. Wayne, yeah. Wayne, like I said, you got the, you know, if you don't mention those names, you're not into music, okay?
Right.
You know,
Right.
it's sort of like it's like that, you
Yeah.
know. And but I just never wanted to try to. I tried to sound like Bird. I tried to sound like Cannonball. I tried to sound like Jackie Mack. You know, I tried to sound like Sonny Fortune for a while. You know, but it's like at the end of the day, I always sounded like me. And the big thing, the big hurdle was to accept that.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of musicians can't accept who they are
Mhm.
and find the good in their sound and exploit that.
That's right.
You know, and I love my sound.
Oh,
And
I
once
do
I
too.
started to be able to make that statement out loud, first I had to look in the mirror and say it. But I can say it to you, Preston, or
Yeah.
anybody else that asks me. Without, I love my sound and fell in love with my sound at an early age. In New York, and the people I met, Jim Green, that's
Mhm.
another influence who will never be known. You know, Joe Kingston, Curtis Fuller. These are some of my influences that don't play saxophone. Albert Daly,
Mhm.
you know, a lot. Hugh Lawson, that in fact, that they're all in me. You know, of course, Sonny Rollins, of course, you know,
Yeah.
that's cookie cutter. That's Reader's Digest material.
Right. Right. Yeah.
You know,
For sure.
I
For sure.
have to have the history of the saxophone in me. Johnny Hodges, of
Mhm.
course. Benny Carter, duh. You know,
Exactly. Exactly. No,
but I'm
you're
talking
absolutely
about
right.
real life experiences that took me. And Jim Green led me back to Prez. I'm a big
Lester Young.
Prez
Yeah.
man.
Yeah.
Big. I mean, he has taken over my life for years. Lester Young.
Yeah.
I channel everything through Lester and train. I think everybody's coming out of Lester Young that
Hmm.
I love.
Yeah.
Sonny Stitt, they all come out of Lester Young, man. Lester he set the stuff up because then you have another style like Coleman Hawkins.
Coleman
You know,
Hawkins. Yeah.
that's the more arpeggiated style. Don
You got
Byas,
you got
things
Ben
like
Webster. Yeah.
Ben Webster, Johnny Griffin. Ben was
Yeah.
more romantic, you know, but there's the arpeggio style, you know, where you're running, you know, and then there's the melodic side of it, you know, which is
Wait,
Prez.
did you were you a fan of Pharoah Sanders?
I love for fan person. I met him. I've heard him live. That's another one. Pharaoh, he's in me. You know, I mean, big time. Dexter, when I saw him live. I mean,
Yeah.
Benny, Benny,
Golson?
Benny Golson, but the Benny Waters.
Oh, okay.
He was living in Europe, alto player, lived to be in the 90s. You
Wow.
know, he was blind for a while. You know, I heard him live once over in Europe. I think
Right.
it was in Holland somewhere. The power of this man, I guess he was 80 something then, you know. I'm like, who is this guy?
Yeah.
Rusty Bryant from Ohio, you know. This cat blew me away. Larry Smith from Detroit,
Hmm.
the alto player from Detroit, man. Woo!
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, Von Freeman blew me away.
Yeah.
The
Chico's
gentleman,
that's Chico's father, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
the gentleman from St. Louis. I'm sorry, I can't call his name right now. They had a giant down there on the saxophone
Hmm.
in St. Louis who come down there and sit you down. And then
Mm.
you have to sit there and listen. You
Wow.
know, Boosie and all these cats, man. Different cities all had gatekeepers. You know, that you had to go through them. If you could stand on stage and go through them, then you could leave town. You know, you felt like you could go somewhere else. But you
Hmm.
had to go through these people because they're like, I call them gatekeepers. Every city has their gatekeepers.
Yeah.
You know, Teddy Edwards, that's the one I couldn't think of. Tenor
Teddy Edwards.
saxophone, West Coast. You
Yeah.
know, Billy, uh, Billy, he had this, him and he had a group with Al Gray and the tenor player. They had a group together. You know, he was a big influence on me. You know,
Mm.
so many people have came into my life, and that's what. it is on top of my 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 due diligence. When you
Yeah,
talk about Bird and those guys, that's due diligence.
yeah, for
You know,
sure, man.
influences. My father was an influence on saxophone because he
Mhm.
was a fanatic about sound.
Yeah,
You know, he was very critical of the sounds that he heard when he listened to saxophones on the TV. You know, we didn't really have any jazz records at the house.
really? Okay.
No, when we took a jazz course in high school, my American history teacher played jazz drums at night, but he
Mm.
taught American history, and he turned the second half of American history into jazz history and bought these books, history books of jazz, and passed them out to the whole class and taught jazz history for the spring semester.
Mm.
And that's when I realized who I was. I said, "Oh, I'm a jazz musician," because I was a jazz musician and didn't know it.
Yeah,
Because like I told you earlier, Preston, you know, I was like doing stuff by ear, and my
right.
biggest fear was being able to read, and because I was an ear player, and when I was in concert band, I'd always be hearing stuff. I played first chair clarinet, and I would hear stuff on Susan marches or concert pieces. I'd add extra notes,
Hmm.
you know, and the band director would say, "Stop padding the parts, Watson," you know, because I just had this imagination, and I'd hear it and I'd stick it in.
Right, right.
And when I saw this class, and when in 11th grade, I said, so I'll be darned. So there's other people out there that are insane like me. You know, I'm a jazz musician.
The
You know,
jazz
now it's
musician.
BAM, which I agree, Black American music, but under the umbrella of BAM is a
Right.
subset called jazz.
Yeah.
That's how I look at it. You know,
Beautiful. Beautiful.
BAM is a really huge tent, but you know, I digress.
Well, listen, Bobby, I want to thank you so much for being on the show today, man. You're a treasure. I love you. And you've been such a positive influence on me in the music. I mean, like I said, when I first heard The Inventor, it just changed my life, man. I still play it quite a bit. But hang on, don't leave. I'm going to close out the show. Well, you've heard it from Bobby Watson today. And as the saying goes, if the music grooves and makes you move, it must be jazz. I'm Preston Williams with Jazz Talk signing off. Peace.